The chair by the window had been hers for 5 years. Every afternoon, the nurses wheeled her there, where she would sit in silence, staring at the parking lot outside the nursing home. She counted the cars that came and went, hoping one of them carried her children, but they never came. The room smelled faintly of disinfectant and wilted flowers. The TV in the corner murmured reruns of a sitcom no one watched. The only sound that truly mattered to her was the creak of the front door. Each time it opened, her heart leapt. Each time it wasn't them, her heart sank. 5 years. That's 1,825 days without a visit. She kept a photo tucked into her sweater pocket. The last family picture before her husband died. Her 3 children stood beside her, arms wrapped around her shoulders, promising they'd always be there. The edges of the photo had curled from being held too often, the ink fading like the memory of their promise. One rainy Sunday, as thunder rattled the windows, she whispered to the nurse, "Do you think they even remember me?" The nurse squeezed her hand but didn't answer. That was the day I walked in, not as a devoted daughter, but as a stranger carrying 5 years of absence on my shoulders. I stood in the doorway, frozen, watching my mother's frail figure silhouetted against the window. Her hair had thinned, her back curved, her hands trembling as she clutched that worn photo. She didn't see me at first. She was too busy looking outside, waiting for people who never came, and as I stood there, guilt flooding my chest, one question burned hotter than all the rest. How could we, her own children, abandon our mother for 5 long years? Before those 5 silent years, my mother had been the centre of our world. She was the kind of woman who remembered everyone's birthday, who clipped coupons to save a few dollars, who sat through every school play and soccer game no matter how cold the bleachers got. After my father passed away, she poured herself into us even more, cooking Sunday dinners, offering to babysit, reminding us that family is everything. But somewhere along the way, everything shifted. I am the eldest, the one who was supposed to set the example. I was 40 when Dad died, with 2 children of my own and a career in full swing. I told myself I'd visit Mom every weekend, but weekends slipped into months into years. My flaw wasn't malice, it was guilt, wrapped in the lie that she was safe in the nursing home, that her needs were being met. My brother Mark, the youngest, had always been ambitious. At 35, he moved across the country chasing a career in tech. He told us once, "Mum's in good hands. She's got professionals watching her. We shouldn't feel bad." His flaw was clearer than mine. Selfish focus on his own life, the belief that money and success excused absence. Then there was Anna, our middle sister. She had the softest heart, but hated conflict. She visited for the first few months after Dad's funeral, sitting with Mom and knitting by her side. But as Mark drifted away and I buried myself in work, Anna grew silent. "I don't want to fight with anyone," she confessed once. So she let herself fade too. Her flaw was avoidance, choosing peace over presence. We all thought she was okay. After all, the nursing home looked clean, the staff professional, the rooms bright. On the surface, it felt like we had done right by her, but the truth was darker. It wasn't about whether she was cared for. It was about whether she was loved. I still remember the nurse pulling me aside after Dad's funeral. "Your mum will wait by the window every Sunday," she said gently. "Make sure someone comes." At the time, I nodded, tears in my eyes, and promised I would. But promises are easy in grief, and easier still to forget. And so the years stretched. Mark sent money once in a while, but no calls. Anna sent flowers on birthdays, but never came. And me. I convinced myself I was doing enough by paying the bills and checking in once a year. The worst part was knowing deep down that she never asked for much, just our presence, a simple visit, an hour of our time, a hand to hold. Instead, we gave her silence, and now Standing in that room after 5 years, I could see what our absence had carved into her. Not just wrinkles of age, but hollows of loneliness. The first crack came with a phone call I wasn't expecting. It was late on a Tuesday evening when the nursing home called. The nurse's voice was calm but firm. "Your mother's health is stable," she said, "but emotionally, she's declining. She's been quieter, more withdrawn. She asked me yesterday if her children had forgotten her." Her words cut like glass. Forgotten her. I hung up, pacing the kitchen. Part of me wanted to rush over right then, but another voice whispered, "It's been 5 years. How do you walk back into that room after so long?" When I told Mark, he scoffed over the phone. "She's in good hands. You're overreacting. Don't let guilt eat you alive. She's fine." And Anna, when I brought it up during our weekly family group text, simply typed, "Maybe it's better not to upset her. If we show up now, she might only feel the gap more." Their words didn't soothe me. They only made the silence louder. One weekend, I drove to the nursing home anyway. I told myself I wouldn't stay long, just long enough to see her. But when I arrived, I hesitated outside her door, my hand hovering over the handle. That's when I noticed a small notebook left open on the side table, visible through the crack in the door. The pages were filled with dates, written in shaky handwriting. I pushed the door open slightly and read from where I stood. Day 1. I know they're busy. They'll come soon. Day 365, a full year, maybe next Sunday. Day 1825, still waiting. My breath caught. 5 years of waiting, recorded line by line. Just then, her voice startled me. "Emily?" I spun around. She was awake, her eyes cloudy but sharp. I quickly shut the notebook and stammered, "I was just looking for a pen." She gave me a faint smile, the kind that carried both love and disappointment. "I'm glad you came," she whispered. I sat beside her, guilt pressing down like a weight I couldn't lift. Later, when I told Mark and Anna about the notebook, Mark laughed bitterly. "You're too emotional. Mum's exaggerating. People in nursing homes always do." Anna went quiet, her silence as heavy as any accusation, but I knew what I had seen. The notebook wasn't exaggeration. It was proof. And for the first time, I couldn't hide from the truth. Our absence hadn't just left a gap, it had carved scars. Proof doesn't come in a single flash. It comes piece by piece until the weight of it is too heavy to ignore. The first piece came directly from the nurse. The morning after my visit, she pulled me aside in the hallway. Her voice was hushed, her eyes weary. "Your mother sits by the window every Sunday," she said. "She asks me to count the cars in the lot with her. She says, maybe that's them. And when it's not, she writes the day down in her notebook." I felt my throat tighten. Each number in that notebook wasn't just a date. It was a wound. The second piece came when I finally opened the notebook fully. Page after page, the handwriting grew shakier, but the message stayed the same, waiting. On birthdays, she drew little stars. On holidays, she drew hearts. But beside each one, the line was the same. No one came. I traced my fingers over the ink, my chest aching with every entry. The third piece was an old photo album I found in the bottom drawer of her dresser. The early pages were filled with family visits, Christmases, Thanksgivings, backyard barbecues. But after Dad's death, the photos thinned. By the time she entered the nursing home, they stopped entirely. The last page was blank, as if the story had ended. I brought the notebook and album to Mark and Anna. I thought showing them would make a difference. Mark snorted, flipping through without emotion. "So what?" Pictures fade. People move on. She's cared for, isn't she? Anna's hands trembled as she turned the pages. She didn't speak, but I saw her eyes glisten. She shut the album gently as though it might break in her hands. My mistake was pushing too hard. I waved the notebook at Mark, my voice sharp. "Look at this. 5 years, Mark." She counted every single day we didn't show up. "Do you get it now?" His expression hardened. "You're too emotional, Emily. You want to drown us in guilt, but guilt doesn't change the past." He shoved the notebook back into my hands and walked out. The silence he left behind was unbearable. Anna stared at the floor, tears slipping down her cheeks. "I should have gone," she whispered, "but I thought sending flowers was enough." Later that night, I sat in my car with the notebook on my lap. I remembered Dad's voice the day of his funeral, when he whispered in my ear, "Take care of her for me." I had nodded, crying, promising I would. And now, here I was, 5 years later, with proof in my hands that I had failed him. And her. The evidence was undeniable. Not gossip, not speculation, written lines, faded photographs, and silence where memories should have been. The truth was clear. We hadn't just neglected her, we had abandoned her. I had built my anger around one truth, that we had abandoned her. But then came a shift I never saw coming. A week after confronting Mark and Anna, I sat with Mom during one of my visits. She was quieter than usual, her frail hands resting in her lap. Then, almost casually, she said, "Do you know why I never remarried after your father passed?" I shook my head. Her eyes glistened, but her voice was steady. "I had the chance. More than once. A nice man from church asked me, another from the senior centre, years later, but I always said no. I wanted every dollar, every ounce of energy to go to you three. College tuition, wedding gifts, helping with down payments. I told myself, my life is theirs now." The words hit me like a tidal wave. She hadn't just been left behind. She had chosen to step aside. She leaned back, looking out the window. "When I entered this place, I knew it might be lonely, but I thought maybe, just maybe, you'd carry me with you. And if you didn't, well, at least you'd have the lives I worked so hard to give you." My chest ached. All this time, I thought she was the victim of our neglect. But in her eyes, it was sacrifice. A decision she made decades ago, to give everything and expect nothing. That night, I sat in the parking lot replaying her words. Suddenly, the notebook of days wasn't just a record of abandonment. It was also a diary of her waiting for a return on the life she had invested in us. The realization shattered me. She hadn't simply been forgotten. She had built the conditions of her own loneliness, giving so much that she erased her own needs. And it reframed the story entirely. We hadn't just failed her. She had failed herself too, by believing her only value was in what she gave away. For the first time, I didn't know whether to be furious at us or at her. After Mum's confession, I couldn't carry the weight alone anymore. I met my oldest friend, Karen, at a diner we'd been going to since high school. She'd spent years caring for her father through Alzheimer's until the disease finally took him. When I slid Mum's notebook across the table, she read in silence, then looked at me with tired but knowing eyes. "Emily," she said, "you can't undo 5 years, but you can decide if the next 5 will be the same. Your mum gave you her life. Now she's asking, without words, for you to give her your presence." Her words stung. They forced me to confront not just guilt, but possibility. Meanwhile, the whispers spread. In the nursing home cafeteria, I overheard another resident say, "She's the one who waits every Sunday." Staff exchanged glances whenever I walked by. Even at church, a neighbour leaned close after the service and murmured, "Your poor mother, such a shame." Our absence wasn't just a private wound anymore. It was a public shame. Daniel reacted with anger. "So now the whole town thinks we're monsters." He snapped over the phone. "People don't understand. We put her there so she'd be cared for. But did we ever care for her? I shot back. Silence followed, heavy as stone. Lily, ever the peacemaker, tried to calm us both. Let's not fight, she pleaded. We'll figure something out. Maybe we can start visiting again, one at a time. For a moment, it sounded like resolution. But soon, the excuses returned. Mark claimed work travel. Lily cancelled once because her husband needed her. Weeks passed, and still no one came but me. One Sunday, while sitting beside Mom, I watched another residence room fill with laughter. 3 generations crowded inside. Children, grandchildren, passing around cookies and photographs. The old man in the chair beamed, his hands held by 3 different people at once. Mom's room, by contrast, echoed with the ticking clock. She smiled faintly at the sound from next door, but her eyes stayed on the window. That night, I broke down to Karen. It's not just about her, it's about all of them. Do you see how many sit in silence, waiting? They're alive, but forgotten. Karen nodded. It's easier for people to send flowers, or money, or excuses. Presence is harder. That's the real cost. The false resolution finally cracked at a family dinner. I pushed hard, begging Mark and Anna to commit to a real schedule. She deserves more than me showing up once a month. She deserves all of us. Mark rolled his eyes. You think Mum wants us hovering around every week? She's adjusted. Anna whispered. Maybe it's too late. Maybe visits now will only remind her of what we didn't do. I slammed my fist on the table. Number 2 late is when she's gone. Do you want to wait for that? The room went silent. Plates of half-eaten food sat untouched. And for the first time, I saw fear in their eyes, fear that I was right. But no commitments came. The wider web had been spun. Mum's loneliness wasn't just ours anymore. It was whispered in the halls of the nursing home, judged in the pews of the church, reflected in the lives of strangers around us. And the truth was unavoidable. We couldn't hide behind walls of convenience forever. The confrontation came on a grey afternoon in late autumn. The nursing home had organised a family day, complete with cookies and coffee in the main hall. Residents sat with their children and grandchildren, tables buzzing with chatter and laughter. But at my mother's table, only 1 chair was filled, hers. The other 3, meant for her children, sat empty. I couldn't bear it anymore. I called Mark and Anna that night and demanded they meet me at the nursing home the following Sunday. No excuses, I said, my voice sharper than I intended. We need to face her, together. And so we did. When we walked into her room, she was by the window again, notebook resting on her lap. Her face lit up when she saw all 3 of us. For a split second, she looked like the mother I remembered. Strong, radiant, whole. But the smile faded as quickly as it came. 5 years, she whispered. Do you know how many Sundays that is? No one answered. Daniel cleared his throat. Mom? She raised her hand, silencing him. Why did you leave me here? Was it easier to forget me than to remember? Her words cracked something open in me. I pulled the notebook from her lap and laid it on the table between us. We saw, Mom, every line, every day. We can't erase it. Mark shifted uncomfortably, his voice sharp. We put you here because it was safer. We thought you'd be cared for. Her eyes flashed. Safe? You think safety replaces love? You think nurses counting pills is the same as my children holding my hand? The room went still. Anna began to cry. I wanted to come. I did. But every time I thought about it, I felt ashamed. I thought maybe it was better if I stayed away instead of reminding you how long it had been. Mum's voice softened, but her pain cut through every word. Silence is worse than shame, Anna. Silence tells me I don't matter. Mark snapped, his own defences crumbling. Fine. You want the truth? I didn't come because I was scared. Scared to see you smaller, weaker, scared to face what time was doing to you. So I buried myself in work and told myself I was doing it for you, but maybe I was just doing it for me. The air in the room grew heavy, raw with confession. I spoke last, my voice breaking. Dad asked me to take care of you, and I failed. I told myself you were safe here, that it was enough, but it wasn't. I left you waiting, alone, while I built my own life. Tears streamed down her face. She reached out her trembling hand, and I took it. I didn't want perfection, she said. I just wanted presence. For the first time in years, all three of us knelt beside her chair. Daniel holding her other hand, Anna leaning against her shoulder, me clutching her notebook. The silence was no longer empty. It was full of regret, confession, and the fragile hope that maybe it wasn't too late to begin again. The week after that confrontation felt like a reckoning. No one could erase what had been said in that room. The confessions clung to us like smoke, impossible to wash away. But for the first time in years, there was also movement. Not excuses, but action. Daniel contacted an elder care attorney. We sat in a cramped office as she explained options, guardianship adjustments, financial oversight, schedules of visitation written into legal agreements. If your mother wants, she said, we can put protections in place to ensure she's not left isolated again. The word protections echoed in my ears. Too late, but not meaningless. Convincing Mum took gentle persistence. She bristled at the idea of legal involvement. I'm not helpless, she said firmly. I don't want you treating me like a child. Anna reached for her hand. It's not about treating you like a child, Mum. It's about making sure none of us falls back into silence again. It's about giving structure to what we failed to do on our own. Mum studied her for a long moment before nodding. If it means I won't sit by that window alone, then fine. So we set it up, rotating weekly visits, written and signed. Daniel on Mondays, Anna on Wednesdays, me on Sundays. The attorney filed documents ensuring financial oversight so Mom's small savings couldn't vanish unnoticed. The first Sunday under the new plan, my daughter came with me. She sat beside Mom and asked softly, Grandma, do you still remember me? Mum's eyes filled with tears. Of course I do. I never forgot you. I only wondered if you'd forgotten me. That exchange pierced me deeper than any courtroom declaration. In the weeks that followed, the ripples spread. Karen reminded me gently, presence isn't about grand gestures. It's about showing up, even when it's inconvenient. Her words became a mantra. At the nursing home, I saw other families inspired, or maybe shamed, into visiting more often. Where once silence filled the halls, now I heard more laughter, more voices. One resident told me, I've been waiting 3 years for my son. Maybe it's time I call him myself. Even Mark, resistant as ever, began to soften. One evening after his visit, he admitted quietly, I thought success would make up for absence, but sitting with her today, I realised she never wanted my money. She wanted me. Anna, too, transformed. At a family dinner, she spoke with a strength I hadn't heard in years. No more hiding, she said firmly. If I feel we're slipping again, I'll say it out loud. Silence would no longer be her shield. The outcome wasn't perfect. Mum still lived in the nursing home. Her health required it. But the chair by the window was no longer empty every Sunday. The notebook now held new entries, not days of waiting, but names of who came and when. And in those pages, for the first time in years, she was no longer counting absences, she was recording presence. On my last visit that month, I found Mom sitting by the same window, but this time she wasn't alone. The chair beside her, once hauntingly empty, was filled. My daughter was there, reading aloud from a picture book while Mom listened, her frail hands tracing the edges of the quilt across her lap. The sight broke me open in ways anger never could. For 5 years, that chair had been a monument to silence. Now it carried life again. I sat down on her other side. For a while, we said nothing, just watching the sunlight spill across the parking lot. Then Mum spoke softly, almost to herself. It feels different now. The waiting isn't so heavy. Her words were both grief and healing. Grief for all the Sundays lost, healing for the Sundays still to come. Driving home that evening, I felt the duality pressing on me, sorrow for the years I abandoned her, and empowerment in knowing we had chosen differently now. The echo of Dad's voice followed me, take care of her. Maybe I hadn't, for 5 long years, but I could, starting today. The notebook still lay on her bedside table, but now its entries had changed. Instead of day 1826, no one came. It read, Sunday, Emily and granddaughter. A fragile but powerful testament that presence, even late, still matters. As I closed the door behind me, I realised the story wasn't over. There would still be missed visits, arguments, moments of guilt. Life doesn't heal neatly. But the silence had been broken, and that was enough. And now I leave the question with you. If it were your mother waiting by the window, would you keep finding excuses, or would you finally show up?